Welcome to another episode of United for a Healthy Stoughton. My name is Stephanie Patton, and I'm the prevention coordinator for the town. It's been a little while since I've been in the studio, so I'm really excited to be back. And today I have with me my friend Reilly, who is going to talk to us about something called Nicotine Free Generation. So Reilly, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to get us started, and then we'll jump in and talk about all of these fun things related to nicotine.
Yes, so I'm Reilly Ellis. I'm the Regional Tobacco Collaborative Coordinator for 8 different towns, including Stoughton. Do I need to list everywhere I work?
No. And if you want to.
But yeah, so I work for 8 different towns, and so a big part of my job is a lot of field work. I go into all of the tobacco retailers across these 8 towns. I do inspections, so I'm looking to make sure that they're being compliant with all state laws and local regulations. And then I also do compliance checks. So I go out with young adults and they go and attempt to purchase tobacco. We hope we never get sales, but we do occasionally.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Great. Thank you for doing that. It's such an important public health effort. So we know here, in Stoughton, our Board of Health has done a lot of work over the years around nicotine and tobacco, and really has been at the forefront of what's been happening at the state. And so we're going to talk about a new initiative and policy change that we're looking at here. But before we do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the context about youth and tobacco and nicotine products. And so I want to say that here in Stoughton, we know, because we survey our students every other year, that most of our kids are not using tobacco or nicotine products. And we actually ask them a fair number of questions about vaping products and cigarettes and things like dissolvable tobacco pouches, which we're going to talk a little bit about some of these emerging products and try to get a handle. And really, by and large, and over the years, this has been continued to be true. Most of our kids are not using. They've never used the nicotine products that are the most popular, but still fairly low in numbers, are vapes with our students still. Really close to 90% of our students just have never used those things. So we love that, and we want to continue to see those numbers, trend in the right direction. But let's talk a little bit about, so that's good news. And at the same time, the tobacco industry, in an effort to try to keep and get new folks using their products, is always sort of innovating around the kinds of things that we start to see. So will you talk to us a little bit about some of the products that are kind of emerging and that might be appealing to young people?
Yes, so one of the biggest things, I actually have some samples up here, are nicotine pouches. So it's a very small pouch. They're very discreet. They come in various different, various different milligram levels of nicotine per pouch. And we also have some flavors here that have been confiscated. Of course, these are illegal in Massachusetts. We do occasionally still come across them. But it looks almost like icebreakers containers. It's really
they
discreet.
look like gum. Yep.
It's really easy to hide. And like I said, they come in so many different milligrams. So depending on what you're looking for, as far as how much nicotine you want, there's a lot of different options. I've seen up to 15 milligrams per pouch as I've been looking.
Wow.
So these we're definitely seeing a lot. I know I've talked to other communities as well that I work in, and they're saying that they are seeing them in schools. They're seeing students use them. Some folks, they are grown, of course, and can use them, but they're saying they use multiple pouches at a time, even at these high nicotine content levels.
Yeah. And I think for sure, this is something I was actually talking to a teacher today in Stoughton, and she was sharing that she had a conversation with a young person who didn't realize there was nicotine in these. So I think the education around what these are, especially because they're sold, in front of convenience stores a lot of time with other products, kids might not really even realize, and they look fairly innocuous. So this is a fairly new kind of a product. We've been seeing it the last couple of years, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of some of the vape products? Because when we were at a recent Board of Health hearing, I was surprised to see some of the products that were shown that are available potentially in Massachusetts.
Yes, so vapes, they've been very innovative with vapes, even down to batteries that are Bluetooth speakers that you connect to and you can play music through. So there are some that look like small little squishy teddy bears or shaped like guitars, things that are definitely, it almost looks like a toy.
Yeah.
And you also have ones that you can play games on. You can pull up, someone was playing like Mario Brothers, or I heard from someone else, they were like, oh yeah, someone was playing Doom, if anyone's familiar with that game series, on their vape, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Yep.
So it's really insane. And then I've heard recently they're developing new vapes as they come out that track your use. So they can see how many puffs you're taking, how much you're using, and they can continue to create new and more innovative products based on all of that data.
Wild. So they're getting feedback, like live feedback from these devices about how people are using them and then marketing them. And I know that one of the ways that often the marketing happens is through social media and influencers. Can you talk a little bit about that too? Because I think that's important.
Yes, so you do see it all over social media, especially with Zen. They have a whole name. You have Zenfluencers talking about why they use it. Like, oh, I like to use it before I go to the gym and it gives me an energy boost. All of these different reasons as to why they use this. And you see it everywhere. And tobacco spends so much money on this kind of advertisement and these brand deals. I was recently at a conference and they spoke about, if you look at some research, I think it was like the large tobacco kind of settlement that happened some years ago. When you look at where stores are placed, where these companies are dumping a lot of their money, most of the stores are located close to schools. They're looking for young adults to become addicted to nicotine and these tobacco products to continue their business.
Yeah, because those are the places kids will stop to get their candy and their soda and all of those other, things that snacks, after school snacks. Okay, so that's like a good background, I think, of sort of what is going on. And also, I'm just in case if people at home don't realize, you referenced earlier that this kind of the flavored Zins are illegal. Can you just say when and why that is the case? Because people at home might not realize that.
Yes, of course. So in 2020, the state of Massachusetts updated their tobacco regulations, and they included a flavor ban in these regulations. So I believe maybe there had already been somewhat of a restriction to 21 plus stores. They moved it so that only smoking bars can have flavored products to be consumed on premises only.
Okay.
But now flavored products cannot be sold in any tobacco retail store or any 21 plus tobacco retail establishments
In Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts,
right.
Yes.
Yep. So that's why something like this, the sour berry or the deep freeze one with the pretty turquoise there are not legal in Massachusetts.
Yes.
Okay. And yet they still are around.
Yes, we do still encounter them, yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Nicotine Free Generation. So this is sort of an innovative, newish kind of policy. So can you explain what that is? So for folks to kind of get a handle on what it means as a policy, and then we can kind of take apart what some of the questions typically are that people ask about it.
Yeah, of course. So Nicotine Free Generation, which I'm just going to shorten for NFG. I like to start by talking about the definition of tobacco products in Massachusetts.
Perfect.
So tobacco products in Massachusetts include anything that is made from or contains tobacco, as well as anything made from or containing nicotine. So it's quite broad. Like, it does include nicotine pouches, even though they don't have tobacco in them.
Okay.
It also reaches vape products. Any vape products, whether or not they have nicotine, are included kind of in this umbrella. So it allows for a nice bit of regulation. And then getting into Nicotine Free Generation itself, it targets kind of like the age of sale. Okay. So rather than you needing to be 21 and then being able to purchase tobacco products, they put like a birth date phase out in. So in Brookline, which was the first town to do it in Massachusetts, anyone born on or after January 1st, 2000 cannot and never will be able to purchase tobacco in Brookline. And so this very slowly phases out people purchasing tobacco. So you have people who are existing users and they're struggling with nicotine addiction, and they're able to continue purchasing products as normal, and the businesses don't lose any of their existing customers in any existing business. However, they aren't able to get these new customers, and we're creating this lovely bubble and like social norms kind of cushioning as the age of people able to buy gets further and further out, like from high schoolers, and the age of people who we know through studies and data are most likely to initiate tobacco use at like such a young age.
Yep. So that makes sense. So the idea is, because initiation of tobacco use tends to happen earlier, like middle high school, very young adult, if we're really trying to reduce access and limit sales to that population, the likelihood that somebody would start using one of these products in their late 20s, for example, is way less than the likelihood of them picking it up earlier. And then a lot of the brain science really shows how hard it is, particularly for an adolescent brain that gets hooked on nicotine. Like quitting becomes a whole other different hurdle. It's already very challenging for adult users, but in the adolescent brain, this is one of the reasons why we're always talking about pushing off drug use, and really just delaying any of that in using any of those products, if at all, because we know that the developing brain is uniquely predisposed to have challenges, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is really exciting, and I know Stoughton is really looking at this policy, which is really, really cool. In addition to the other complementary, like all of the other work that we've done up until now with the Board of Health. So I imagine there are lots of questions people have about nicotine free generation and things that they wonder. And is this legal? Is this prohibition? What happens to the stores, kind of all of these pieces. So maybe we can take apart some of those more common questions. So what would you say are the most common things people ask or sort of wonder about with nicotine-free generation?
Definitely, is it legal? Is it constitutional?
Yeah.
Which, yes, it is. The Massachusetts, let me read it off properly.
Yeah.
Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court upheld it.
Okay.
I believe that was ruled in early 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So a few entities decided to sue Brookline when they passed NFG.
Mm-hmm.
And so it went all the way to Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court.
Yep.
They upheld.
Okay.
So it is constitutional. It is perfectly legal to have this kind of a regulation exist.
Okay.
Also, yes, a lot of comparisons to prohibition do happen when talking about
Yeah.
this. So tobacco itself is not illegal. Being able to possess it, being able to use it is not illegal at all. And existing users are able to continue on purchasing it. It's
Yep.
anyone, as they turn 21, with the date that is set, cannot begin to purchase it and go on to purchase it. And we do understand that there might be some young adults who are already addicted, and there are a lot of cessation services at the state level. They've even recently released an app specifically for youth addicted to be able to use and get help with cessation. So we
Yeah.
are focusing on that as well.
Okay, great. So I think that's also really important, especially when we know about some of the challenges of quitting using tobacco products that there are resources in place for folks to get support if this is particularly a challenge for them, if they started using and this were to go into effect, and what that might mean. So maybe we can sort of talk even about what the rollout really starts to look like, because I think that's sort of an important, this is a different kind of a rollout than when the flavor restriction went into place or some of the other policies that happened. So let's let's imagine that, let's say a year from now, our Board of Health were to say, okay, we're going to move forward with this. And so anyone that's, now I'm gonna have to do math. We could pick an arbitrary date because we're just sort of talking about what it might look like. So anybody born before the date, like January 1, 2006, right, would no longer be able to purchase products starting on, again, I'm making this up, January 1st, 2027, right? So that would mean anybody who, at that point, that would just be 21, right? So then the following year, on January 1st, 2028, then anybody who's under the age of 22 would no longer be able to purchase. And then in Stoughton, just wherever, or in other communities where this policy exists. And then the year after that, anybody under the age of 23. So we can see it's a really slow rollout. And then knowing what we know about the fact that most of our young people are actually not using those products, the impact to a business should be not the same as it was when we say eliminated all flavored tobacco products all at the same time and said you can't sell these and they have to disappear from your store, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a very, very slow phase out. It allows for businesses to adjust their business model to look at maybe new products they could bring into their store and start replacing with tobacco. And we're looking at decades of, again, all of these existing customers in business that they're going to get to continue. And again, as you said, it's not like they would be getting an influx of new business. There are so few youth, thankfully, not using tobacco and using products.
Right. So it's sort of an interesting paradox around, I mean, the truth is that like we're trying to keep those numbers low. So if and as other products get introduced that, because I'm not really sure who the video game vape is aimed at, if not for children, I mean, just saying, that as those things kind of come on board, they don't end up as easily, at least in Stoughton, in the hands of children. Yes. So I know one of the other big questions is like, well, okay, so let's say Stoughton does this. What about the other cities and towns around us? Can't people just go next door to another community like Easton or Canton, and if they don't have this in place, are we losing business to those communities?
So theoretically, yes, but if you look at data, the first town in Massachusetts to pass T21 or making tobacco illegal to purchase unless you were the age of 21, you look at data from that, and a vast majority of people didn't go to neighboring towns to buy their tobacco. It's out of the way. People have a routine.
Yep.
So it's really unlikely, looking at sort of similar situations, that people are just going to go outside of Stoughton to attempt to purchase tobacco.
Okay.
And again, it's just that new business. It's again with T21, where it was that huge jump from 18 to 21. I can see how there may have been like this pocket of like a lot of people. Who may have
That's true.
it.
Yeah. So even when we moved from 18 to 21, that was like 3 years worth of folks where the rules suddenly changed, as opposed to we're just doing 1 year at a time.
Exactly.
Right? So that's much more incremental. I think when we look at policy and access to, we know that when we make the healthy choice the easier choice, people are more likely to take that. And so I was reading something somewhere that said even just like there's like a 20-second rule. So if something is going to take 20 seconds longer, I'm less likely to do it. And so they were using this example of like, if I don't want to sit and watch TV every night, if I take the batteries out of my remote and hide them, even if I know where they are, the extra effort of like, oh, I'm going to have to get up, I'm going to have to put the batteries back in the remote, but my book is here, I'll just pick up my book and read, or my ukulele is here, maybe I'll play around on the ukulele instead of watching TV. So, you could imagine if the 20-second rule holds, the effort of having to go out and seek and like go to another community to purchase something would be a pretty heavy lift for somebody to really feel like they need to do that. Yes. So I think that's a really important question. What are some of the other kinds of questions that come up? I just had one in my head and then it went right out of my head. So we talked about people crossing borders and into different communities. Are there other communities that are looking at this?
There are so many communities. 19 have passed it so far.
Great.
And it's even sitting with the Joint Commission of Public Health at the state for the state to pass it.
Yep.
So lots of different towns are considering. Within my collaborative, we already have Brookline and Newton have adopted it. Watertown's also looking to adopt it. And also, when you think of like neighboring towns, so Stoughton might just be kind of like one dot. You do see a domino effect when neighboring towns start to adopt it. It takes one, and then suddenly you have an entire region. That happened, I believe, in Mystic Valley. So it is spreading. A lot of people are looking into it.
Yeah, and then historically, when we think about the T21, the Tobacco 21 law, that passed first in cities and towns, and then the state changed the statewide policy, correct?
Yes.
And so that's often what happens with a lot of these tobacco policies too, is that it comes first from local communities, and then there's momentum and inertia, and the state, as you had said, it's sort of sitting right now in committee, and hopefully, knock on wood, like it will come out of committee at some point in the next few years and pass at the statewide level. But in the meantime, this is an opportunity for cities and towns to really talk about the norms that exist and like the importance of health, and have some conversation around these products and the reasons that we're concerned about young people using them. So I think that's really helpful. I'm trying to think what else. What are some of the other? I have my cheat sheet too. So we talked about folks who maybe were already struggling with addiction, right? And that, so there will continue to be, even if this were to pass, there would continue to be cessation products available for people who are feeling like, oh, now I don't really want to make the extra effort, but I'm struggling with a nicotine addiction. So some of those cessation products, as well as some of these statewide resources, are still available for people.
Yes, the Quit line is always there. Again, for young adult folks who are struggling with nicotine addiction, they've just created this app that should be easy to use. I know they're starting to roll it out and market it really now. And then cessation devices, anything that's been approved by the FDA for use as cessation, will be available to continue to purchase and use if that's something that you need access to.
Great. What about the black market argument that, like, well, people are just gonna, this is gonna make the black market flourish?
Again, since existing users are going to continue to be able to purchase, there really is no need or no precedent for a black market to suddenly pop up. Really, there's no need for it.
Yeah.
Everyone can continue to go to their normal convenience store and purchase it. And it's not illegal for possession, for use. It only targets the sale. So they can continue to go about life as normal and pick it up when they go to the gas station, when they go to their liquor store, wherever they've been purchasing it.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, I think one of the other things as we're talking about this too, and I'm thinking about the age gap, is one of the things we know about alcohol, and when the minimum purchase age for alcohol went up now 1 million years ago to 21, that what happens with adolescence, and so I believe this is true. The tobacco 21 is newer than that, but that it increases the gap between sort of like a peer who's of age to purchase something. So if your 18-year-old peer is, it's legal for them to buy something, and their friends might be 16, 17, right? They might be younger high school students. If the age is 21, the peers of that 21-year-old are less likely to be high school kids now because they're in kind of a different age bracket. And so this would continue to sort of broaden that age gap between sort of the legal purchaser and the, young adult who might be like, oh, I can just get this from my friend, because less of their friends are now able to purchase legally. So I don't know if did we see that yet with Tobacco 21? That might have been I didn't ask you to prepare for that question, so that feels a little unfair.
No, that I'm not sure. I'd have to do some more research into that.
Yeah. But I know that that's one of the things we think about, is this idea that if they're, we can sort of broaden that age, and anything we can do around access, again, is, I think, good public health policy around reducing youth access and use. So I want to make sure that, one, are there other things that we haven't covered on this that people at home might be wondering about?
Sorry, checking my notes.
It's okay. Yeah, I know. We want to make sure. I was like, wow, we covered a lot of ground.
I don't believe so. The only other thing I can think of is if you're thinking of maybe the capacity of your health department to enforce this. It is my job, at least here in Stoughton and all of the towns I cover, it's my job to enforce this policy, and it's really easy. It's not a big ask for me. All it does is change the recruitment for my underage buyers I go out and do my compliance checks with. So rather than everyone being under the age of 21, I'll go out and recruit people who are above the age of 21 but born on or after that date that is implemented, should the policy be adopted. And I do compliance checks as normal. I think the only other kind of big difference is, the state still has T21, so any stores who sell to anyone who's in that window, it will be a local violation versus a state violation. But it's an easy lift. It's not hard to enforce whatsoever.
And so then what ends up happening is the signage in those stores would just say anybody born before this particular date can no longer buy tobacco products here in this establishment, in this community. Perfect.
And I would also perform a lot of education on the front end too, with retailers, making sure they have these signs, understanding the policy, and that they feel comfortable enforcing properly.
And then, and that's work too that the coalition here in Stoughton and the Board of Health would also be able to do, is really helping folks to understand and to wrap their heads around this. So I think if people have questions, you can reach out to Reilly, and we'll make sure Reilly's information is shared. You can reach out to me at the Oasis Coalition. I also want to sort of highlight that on the Oasis website, we have so many resources for folks, particularly adolescents, who might be struggling with nicotine or other substance use challenges. And so there are, as Reilly said, there are resources that are particularly focused on young people, and so that are maybe text-based or web-based, some of the ways that young people prefer to communicate. And the materials are developed specifically for them and for supporting their own journey around quitting. So I think that's really important to make sure people always know and have access to those kinds of things. If you can also reach out to the Board of Health if you have questions specifically about what this looks like in Stoughton. Our Board of Health is fabulous in that they always go to public hearing with these kinds of things. And so there will be opportunities at a future date as the town continues to look and consider this for people to give input and to ask more questions. And so we encourage people to do that. It's like an important part of the process, and it's a good way to learn about these different public health policies. So absolutely, questions and feedback and all of that stuff are definitely welcomed. Any last thoughts, Reilly? I really appreciate that you were here today with us and able to do this and share some information, because I think this is going to be new and news for people. It might be something they haven't heard about before.
Of course. No, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to educate. It's one of my favorite parts of my job.
Yeah.
But no, I think we covered everything really well. Just again, it's such a slow phase out. It allows so much time for retailers to adjust, and again, social norms. I think creating this bigger bubble from the youth and getting that kind of age of purchase a little bit farther away and farther away.
Yeah,
be good to see.
Yeah. I mean, and I think as a community, really, the focus around health of our young people is so important. And I do appreciate the sort of slow rollout of this as well, because I think it does honor the local and small businesses and really minimizes that kind of an impact that sometimes these public health changes have and can have, and sometimes need to happen, right, in support of the health of the public. But for sure, hopefully this is something that we can all get behind collectively, and I think there's going to be lots more discussion coming. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll make sure we share all that contact info, and I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day.